Hey, everybody. He's hard to label and even harder to put in a box. So you know what we did? We stopped trying. That's right. Welcome to the Brian Kennedy Show.
Hey, people. Welcome to the Brian Kennedy Show. This is the first episode, and however you found me, I'm so glad you did, whether it was Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Just thanks for being here. This has been a road that has been exciting to travel on, like most of my life. What a great journey to get to the first episode of the Brian Kennedy Show. Oh, man. How do I even explain how we got here? I'm going to try. So as you know, I've teased a little bit about what this podcast is going to be about. I've even asked you what you wanted it to be about, and I got some great responses. And many of you were correct. Let me see if I can explain it this way. I guess when I was a kid, I wanted to play every sport. Didn't matter what it was. I wanted to play every sport there was. If it was a ball, put it in my hands. I wanted to run with it, shoot it, throw it, whatever, catch it, hit it, whatever. I just wanted to do it. I love being outside. I love playing with the guys in the neighborhood, and I just wanted to play sports. And then as you start playing organized sports, for me, third grade, it was fun. So football season, you played football. Basketball season, you played basketball. Baseball season, so forth and so on. Then when you get a little bit older, you start getting high school, they start, baseball season runs into football season runs into basketball season, and basketball season runs into track and baseball, and then the cycle goes on and on. So you start getting more pressure to, you need to be a one-sport athlete. Man, I hated hearing that. And thinking about the one-sport athlete, how if the podcasts were in that same vein, I was thinking about George Foreman. Do you know who George Foreman is? Some of you are old enough to remember. I think he was a two-time heavyweight world champion. I think he won it the first time when he beat, I think it was Joe Frazier. And then years later, I'm going to think maybe could he have been in his 40s, 37, 38, 39, something like that when he won it the second time. So George Foreman was a boxer, heavyweight champion. And if you remember George, he was tough. He was really tough. But if you remember him later in life, all I remember is this big smile on his face. I see him on TV. Why? Because he was selling the George Foreman grill. Everybody had a George Foreman grill. And he became, I don't know how much money he made, but they say he made a lot more money on the grill than he did in boxing as a world champion, heavyweight champion. So that right there tells me that's not a one-sport athlete. That's a two-sport guy. I got the George Foreman grill, businessman, lots of money, and I've got the athlete, the commitment, the discipline to be a boxer and be a world champion. But George Foreman also had a big family. So he's a family man. So that's a three-sport athlete right there. And then George Foreman also became a preacher, man of faith, man of God. Well, that's a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to infinity athlete right there. So if you think about it, was he a boxer? Yes, absolutely. But if you just called George Foreman a boxer, you would miss the preacher. And if you just called him a preacher, you'd miss the champion. If you just called him a champion, you miss the businessman. You see what I'm saying? That's why I couldn't make the podcast just about one thing. And unfortunately, the school that I went to, if you were in the school, you were going to play pretty much every sport, which was great because I loved it. But you just changed shoes, and if you were in the playoffs in football or the state championship, you might miss the first 5 basketball games. You would just have to forfeit them because you didn't have enough players to play. But when the 6th game came, it might be the day after your state championship game. You just changed shoes and showed up and started playing basketball. I love that. But then as you get to college, and then it's like, well, dude, you got to pick one. And that's pretty much by necessity, just because of the time and that it takes to play any sport at the collegiate level and then on into the professional level. But I just wanted to play them all. And I couldn't understand why somebody would not want somebody to do it all. Like, I think one makes you better at the next. A football player makes you a better basketball player. Basketball player makes you better football, better baseball, etc. So how does that apply to the Brian Kennedy Show? Because I think I'm the same way in life. Humbly, I say, I've just gotten to participate in so many different things that when it came down to trying to figure out what niche this podcast would be about, it kind of drove me crazy. I started feeling that same pressure that I felt when I was a kid, thinking, well, if I've got to pick between one sport or the other, which one am I going to pick? So when I started putting together a podcast, the first idea was maybe about songwriting. And there are lots of other songwriting podcasts and many, many, many great ones. And then so I would start putting together like what I call like the Bible for the podcast, things that I wanted to say. I put them in a notebook and topics and scripts even. And then I would get about 50% through the process and I would think, but I really want to talk about sports too. So I thought, well, maybe I should just do a sports podcast and just talk to athletes, coaches. So I would get real excited and I'd start putting together that notebook. So I'd have the songwriter halfway through, writers, then I'd have the sports halfway through, and I would go, what I really want to talk about is like entertaining. So I'm like, yeah, we could have some like actors and people that are on stage, performers, artists, because I really like doing that. For you, some of you don't know, I used to open up Garth Brooks shows in the 90s with a guy named Dan Roberts, Rodeo and Chuck, and just loved it. I mean, loved it. Who wouldn't love something like that? Getting a tour a couple of years with the greatest. So, well, you could do something about that. And then it just kept everything that I would come up with. And then I have this real passion for athletes and entertainers off the stage and off the court and off the field. What I call in the spotlight. Then I'd get into my life coaching part of that and think, I really just want to be a positive encourager for athletes and entertainers that are not dealing with their profession, but they're dealing with life outside of that. So talking with them, talking to you, those people or other people through a podcast that would be outside your performance. Because a lot of people get their identity from their performance, whether it's your job or a true performance as an entertainer or an athlete. So I wanted to do that podcast. And the more that I kept trying to put these things together, performance, identity, and brand, I'm thinking, I don't know how to be one athlete. I don't know how to be a one-sport athlete. So why am I trying to make myself a one-topic, one-niche podcaster? So one day I'm driving down the road and it was like God said to me, do it all. Just throw it all in there. And all of a sudden I just, that felt so good. That felt so good. It felt so right just to say, you know what, we're gonna talk about everything, because I started thinking about all the different rooms that I've been in. And it's amazing. I mean, I can't even, the blessings that I've been given through time, through people, I'm not talking about monetary blessings. I'm talking about just being enriched in life and experiences with great people, tremendous coaches, tremendous entertainers, tremendous musicians. I've just been blessed. So to take that and say, this podcast, The Brian Kennedy Show, is going to be maybe like a house. I'm making this up as I go, with different rooms. And it's all the rooms that I've been blessed to be a part of. So it would be like First, locker rooms, right? Locker rooms are, man, this is going to sound really crazy, but they're, I can't even, I'm going to say, they're kind of like churches. They're kind of reverent. I mean, when you're in a locker room with your team, that's like sacred ground, so to speak. It's as real as life will ever get if you get inside a locker room with teams. I'm not saying that with every sport, mainly football. Yeah, mainly football. I'm sure it'd be like that in some other contact sports. That it's real intense because you're dealing with people that you have to go to war with on a daily day to practice to go to war with against another team. It's interesting. But, life is inside that locker room, from girlfriends to school to practice to the games to accountability to expectations to put up or shut up. Locker rooms. I've been in a lot of locker rooms. So this podcast will have a lot to do with that little section of life and applying it to life today and outside that locker room. Then there's the green rooms. Gotten to be in quite a few green rooms. If you don't know what a green room is, when you're going to, when a guest is going to be on a TV show or is getting ready to go on stage, the green room is pretty much the nicest dressing room, if you want to say that, that's closest to the stage, where they'll have, some water and like a deli tray and some fruit and some snacks where you can be really comfortable before it's your time to entertain, be interviewed, or whatever that case may be. And green rooms are interesting because you can find yourself in a green room with people that you don't know, but they're people that you probably know of or you have seen. So you might be in a green room with an athlete that's an amazing athlete, or an entertainer, an actor, or a singer, people that you've seen on TV, heard on the radio, maybe even some of your heroes. People that nobody's ever heard of, like me, that I'm in a green room and everybody's going, who's that guy? Well, I'm in there, but really, who am I? So you're just in this, it's not awkward, but it is a little bit different because, again, you might be around people that are on TV and that are famous. And then there you are. So the conversations are interesting because of the personalities that are in there. So if you got like a Hollywood movie star and you got a new young singer that's just coming up, how they interact and whether their egos take over or their humbleness takes over, green rooms are really interesting. So I think there'll be that sort of thing that we deal with here too. And then I think there's the writers' rooms. Being in a lot of writers' rooms as a co-writer, so interesting. So in Nashville, anyway, you would, when I was a full-time writer, you would get either set up with a co-write, or you would set up a co-write yourself, or somebody would just show up and you'd go, hey, do you want to write a song? Or they would ask you if you want to write a song. It's kind of like a date without any sort of normal, what you would call asking somebody out or something. But it's kind of like that. And I'm not getting into the dating part, like I'm talking about boyfriend, girlfriend, et cetera. I'm just saying you're kind of saying to somebody that you don't know, do you want to get together and be real vulnerable? So that's an interesting thought, that you're going to get with somebody that you don't know sometimes, and you're going to have a couple of guitars, one in your hands and one in their hands, or a piano or whatever, and you're going to discuss things that you probably have never talked about with your spouse or your parents or with anybody. And then out of that's going to come this melody and a song and lyrics. Writers' rooms are interesting. So that's kind of a room inside this house that we're going to build together. Then there's the living room where you just hang out and maybe just talk about things you've seen lately, current events, or hopefully humor. We got to have a lot of humor. And I hope, I've been thinking about the humor aspect, and I'm definitely not a stand-up comedian, but I love to laugh, like to make people laugh a lot through my songs. But a lot of that comes from my grandmother. And I was thinking, I really want to share my grandmother with everybody on this podcast. Then I started thinking, do I really want to share my grandmother with everybody on this podcast? She was so funny. But I'm not sure you would understand her, but I do. And I'm so thankful for her. And she always made me laugh. Always, always, always. Still, I laugh thinking about her right now. But I want humor to be a part of this, and it will be just by human nature. It will be. But obviously a lot of fun. So it's going to be observations. It's going to be conversations. Yes, I will have guests, split screen guests. Hopefully I can figure that out. If you can't tell, I'm just trying to figure out how podcasts work today with it being video as well as audio. It's just going to be a lot of fun. Oh. And I'm going to have a segment. And this was another thing that I thought I was going to do the podcast on. I was going to do a whole podcast, and maybe I still will, called "You Want to Hear a Great Line?" Even though I'm a songwriter, every now and then I'll hear a song, and one line will just jump out and stop me. And I think to myself, what a great line. I'm Brian Kennedy. Welcome to Want to Hear a Great Line? So what's that going to be about? That's going to be about me picking out one line from a song that just blew me away when I heard it. Like, oh man. Usually a songwriter, if they really love a line, the first thing they'll think of is, I wish I would have written that line. So these are those kind of lines. It's going to be a whole segment on Want to Hear a Great Line. We'll pick a line out of a song, why I think it's great. For an example, Merle Haggard. There'll be a million lines from Merle Haggard. But the first thing that comes to my mind is from now on, all my friends are going to be strangers. Okay, that's not the line that I would say, you want to hear a great line, but it's from that song. And it says, the only thing I can count on now are my fingers. I just want to be in the room when somebody, my co-writer, says to me, how about this? From now on, all my friends are going to be strangers. I'm all through ever counting on anyone. The only thing I can count on now are my fingers. And you got to kind of say fingers, not fingers, but fingers to rhyme with strangers. I love that. I just love it, love it, love it, love it. So we're going to do a segment called Want to Hear a Great Line. And it's going to be things like that. Not always funny, but we're definitely going to get into the songwriting part of that. That's going to be a total blast. Okay, what else? Oh, gosh. I want to be able to chat with you guys somehow. I don't know how to make that work because it won't be live. Maybe we can do a live show if I figure out how to do that. That'd be interesting. I don't know if YouTube, if you can have a chat on there live. I think TikTok, we can do a live, or Instagram or Facebook. I don't know. But I will figure it out. I've done TikTok live playing songs on my guitar. So maybe we can do that sometime. You guys can let me know. I don't know if you can comment on YouTube. I really don't know how that works. Sorry. But yeah, social media. My website, brianswebsite.com, is the place where you can find out where I'm coming to play, do songwriter shows, theater shows, where I'm going to be speaking. All my books are available there. I really don't want the podcast. I know it sounds funny, the Brian Kennedy Show. I really don't want it to be about Brian Kennedy. I want it to be about all the things that we've talked about. I want to have guests on here that you guys will find really interesting in the different way that we talk about things, rather than promoting an album, promoting a tour, promoting me. And I don't mean me, but them too. I want to get below that part of it and have a lot of fun with it. And hopefully faith will be a lot of this as well. I've also wanted to do the podcast strictly on faith. And then I realized I can't do anything that's not based on faith. So no matter what I do, that's the foundation. So with all that being said, here we are, the first episode of the Brian Kennedy Show. Thank you for being here. I think we'll probably do it once a week. Probably going to have sponsors. I'm sure they're going to be pouring in. Maybe you guys can tell me who you'd like to see as a guest. And it doesn't have to be somebody famous. It could be somebody from your hometown. It could be an interesting character. It could be a teacher that you've had. And it could really be about anything. But mainly, I want it to be heartfelt, funny, and true. And maybe I'll sing some songs on here. I don't know. I'm just excited to get the first episode out, and it's going to change a lot. I don't know where I'm going to end up doing it. But for today, I'm very blessed to have had this time with you. Thank you for tuning in to the Brian Kennedy Show. Please like it. Please share it. Please direct message me. Email me off the website, brianswebsite.com. And I will try to get back to every one of you. I'm pretty good at that, or at least I'm trying to be pretty good at that. And thank you. And God bless you. Blessings to you. And I will see you next time. Thanks.